Eagles. What's going on? All right, so we're back and we are rehashing an old topic. Jalen Hurts. Big surprise, right? But it's going to another fever pitch where we're discussing it. And my goodness, after really looking at the data, really looking at the numbers, and really doing a comparison, a full comparison of these QBs, and I'm glad I waited to do this because Wilds from First Things First, then an awesome The Truth Hurts Part Two, and I was already thinking about it because I made my video like a video a bunch of days ago, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do another Jalen Hurts video, and I waited on it, I sat on it, I looked at everything, and then here he comes with this great video, and he's right. For everybody, it's wins, right? For everybody else, it's wins. For Jalen Hurts, it's you got to throw it. It's ridiculous. He says, he says, what's the path for success for everybody, right? He says Mahomes, just win. Lamar, just win. Josh, just win. Joe Burrow, just win. Hurts, perform circus tricks. Perform circus tricks before we can take you seriously. It's absolute nonsense. Okay, so for this, we are going to look at Jalen Hurts as a starter for the first couple of years. And then we're going to compare the first couple of years of these other guys' football careers, right? Because they all didn't start at the same time. They all weren't starters at the same time. You got Mahomes, and Mahomes was a starter in 2018. So you want to take the first 4 years of starting, because when Hurts first came in, he was back up to Wentz. So we can't count that first year. We'll go 4 years since he was a starter. So let's look at this. Mahomes coming in 2018. He took the Chiefs to the conference championship and lost, but he's in the playoffs. His second year as a starter, 2019, he won the Super Bowl. Amazing second year. Third year, he went back to the Super Bowl and lost. And his fourth year, he went to the conference championship and lost. So he's been to the playoffs every time. He's made deep runs every time, right? We already know that. A conference championship 7 years in a row. This is why I really don't argue on whether or not Jalen is over Mahomes. I think right now, with these stats, Mahomes is number one and Hurts is number two. I firmly believe, not only from looking at all these stats that I'm about to show you, but tell you that it's clear and obvious that Hurts is number two, and all everybody does is try to move the goalpost to make you think that he's not. So when you're trying to do analysis, right, stats can be misleading without context. So you look at these last year and you're like, oh, well, Josh threw it more and Lamar threw it more and all these people throw it more. And they just cherry pick stats and say, and tell you, this is how you should rate a quarterback, right? You should rate them based on our criteria. Not have your own criteria, but base it on their criteria. And then they say, well, okay, you're just a fan. The GMs are the ones who are in the league. They've been doing it for a long time. Players, scouts, all that other stuff. So you should listen to them because they're the experts. Now, that can have some credence, right? Subject matter experts, people who have been around and have done a thing for a long time at a professional level, should their opinions should hold some weight. Some, not all. If that opinion just flies out in the face of reality, then you stop listening to it. Okay? And then you have to consider the source. Was one of the GMs the Giants GM or head coach? Right? You think about that. The Giants, who didn't value Saquon Barkley, who didn't attempt to go after Jaden, from what I understand, where we saw that clip where his son was like, you should go after Jaden Daniels, if you want another QB. The Giants, who thought Daniel Jones was more important than Saquon Barkley, even though they knew Saquon Barkley was their entire team and their entire fan base and everything. If that is one of the people who is voting and saying that, I don't know, but I'm saying if that's one of the people who's saying Jalen stinks and these other guys are better, doesn't that context kind of lead you to be like, listen, I can't pay attention to what this guy is saying? They don't know how to run their own organization or any other organizations that are really run poorly, like the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are good at being famous. They are not good in the last 30 years of being winners. So if we're having a conversation on winners and you're taking the Cowboys' stance on it, if their stance is Jalen stinks and these other guys are better, how can you listen to that? How? When they in their own culture can't breed the success that the Eagles breed. You'd be foolish to listen to that. Okay. So, Patrick, we got that out of the way. It's clear and obvious to me that he's number one. I'm not arguing that. Where I argue is with everybody else trying to put Jalen below all the way at ninth, which is out freaking rageous. Let's look at the rest of this. Joe Burrow. He was the starter in 2020, right? So he started in 2020. Let's look at Cincinnati since 2020 and look at their success, their playoff success, okay? So 2020, they didn't go to the playoffs. 2021, they went to the Super Bowl and they lost. So great. And a lot of people give him credit for that. He beat Patrick in the conference championship that year. Great. And then he lost in the Super Bowl to the Rams. Okay. So then in 2022, he goes to the conference championship and he loses to Patrick. Okay. Guess what? 2023, 2024, the man ain't sniffed the playoffs. Right? He's banking on, the Bengals are banking on another team to lose to let them in. They're not creating their own destiny. They're hoping that somebody else lets them in. So the argument again for Burrow would be, oh, his defense was bad. Okay. When Jalen Hurts' defense was ranked 29th, almost the last in the league, he still got them to the playoffs. They lost. It was a miserable end to that year, but he got them to the playoffs with a bad defense. So we're not giving Joe Burrow a pass on your defense sucks, because we see that Jalen can do it with a bad defense. He led 4 games in a row down double digits because the defense couldn't hold water, couldn't tackle anybody, and brought them back to victory and won against the best teams that year. So forget this Joe Burrow stuff. You want somebody who's going to throw it 5,000 times? Great. He can get you 5,000 yards. He can get you 6,000 yards. Is he going to get you to win? Is he going to get you to the Super Bowl? Is he going to win the Super Bowl? So far, it looks like no. So we'll move on from Joe Burrow. We will look at Josh Allen, okay, and their playoff success. And Josh, if I'm not mistaken, let's look at it real quick. I got it pulled up. Okay, Josh was a full-time starter from 2018. Week 2 of 2018, full-time starter. So now we'll look at Buffalo's 4 years from 2018. 2018, they didn't make the playoffs. 2019, they went to the wild card and lost. So that's year 2. Year 3 is 2020, where they made it to the conference championship and lost to Kansas. 2021, they made it to the divisional round and lost to Kansas. So that's 4 years. So they only missed the playoffs 1 year of his starting career, which is great. But what's been his boogeyman? His boogeyman has been Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That's been their boogeyman. And we're going to the first 4 years. Remember that. We're not going with these all these other years, because we're comparing the starting successes of these quarterbacks. Because there's no telling what Jalen will do with 3 or 4 more years. He may win 2 more Super Bowls or 3 more Super Bowls or 1 or none. You know, I'm not predicting the future, but I'm saying the future is there to be written for him. So until we get those other years, we can only take the first 4 years of starting for these quarterbacks. So, Bills, there you go. Missed 1 year of the playoffs. For Philadelphia, every year that Jalen has been starting, they've been to the playoffs, right? So, in 2020, when he joined the team, he wasn't the starter. He was the backup for Carson. So, he's starter in 2021. So, wild card round, lost to Tampa. And you already know, Tampa, for whatever reason, just got our number. Because we have 2 losses to Tampa in the wild card round. So 2021, made it, lost to Tampa. 2022, his second year. Sound familiar? Second year starter in the Super Bowl, just like Patrick Mahomes. Lost to Kansas with the we won't get into it. Lost to Kansas. Third year, excuse me. Lost to Tampa in the wild card round, but he made it to the playoffs. And fourth year, we know. Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, beat the brakes off of Kansas City, and just showed out. Showed out. And not only that, but they weren't the number 1 seed, so they had to run the full gambit, unlike in the previous Super Bowl run where they didn't have to run the full gambit. They were the number 1 seed, so they skipped the wild card round. Okay? That's Jalen Hurts. Playoffs every year of his first 4 years as a starter. 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win against everybody's enemy. Okay? Let's go to Lamar. Right? When was Lamar a starter? Lamar didn't start. He was the starter at week 11 of 2018, so we're not going to count that. We're going to go to we're going to go to 2019, where he's got the full year. So we'll go to 2019. So 2019, they made it to the playoffs. They lost in the divisional round to the Titans. 2020, made it to the divisional round, lost to Buffalo. 2021, they didn't make it. So that's the third year. And 2022, the fourth year, they lost to the Bengals in, the wild card round. Okay? So he misses a year of the playoffs from his starting 4 years. He goes the other 3 years, which is still decent, which is still great. This is why Lamar is one of the best. He absolutely is one of the best. There's no disputing that. But him and his team have not gotten there. And you know why they haven't finished it? Because they believe that the formula is what all of the rest of the league and what everybody else would tell you that the winning formula is. You got to throw it. You got to throw to and win. Let's just, again, rehash this last playoff run for them. They got King Henry. The man is known for trucking people, burying them in the dirt, putting them on posters, and making them look absolutely crazy. And what did they do in the playoffs? Oh, you know what? Even though you had almost 2,000 yards rushing, we're going to give it to our superstar, Lamar, and let him do it and not run the ball. And what happened? They got sent home. They got sent home because it was all about what Lamar was going to do. And Lamar had 2 costly turnovers in that game against Buffalo, and then couldn't bridge the gap of those mistakes and win them the game at the end. Now, granted, he did throw it to his guy, and his guy dropped it, but who cares? It's the same thing about our 2 losses in the same year. If Saquon doesn't drop it, we don't lose that game. If Devontae Smith doesn't drop it, we don't lose that game. So we really only have 1 loss that year, and it was against Tampa, where, again, Tampa's just a curse for the Eagles for whatever reason. But if we're counting those losses and saying that we look bad and, oh, we lost and we're 2-2 and, you know, the sky's falling, then we're going to count this drop to this player and that they couldn't get it done. We're absolutely going to count that because we counted against Jalen Hurts. So I don't want to hear that, oh, we put it in his hands and it wasn't his fault, he dropped it. That's besides the point. They didn't win. Winning is what matters. Otherwise, he would have went on to play the Chiefs. But we're only going on first 4 years. So, did we do Josh? I'm not sure we did Josh. Josh, oh yeah, we did. Because Josh, I said he started week 2 of 2018. So we went over his. So here you have it. Here's all of your GOATs, all of your best players. And Hurts has more success than all of them. And it's because he understands that being a quarterback doesn't mean I got to be the star of the show and I got to do it all. It doesn't mean that. It means, what do I need to do for my team to set us up for success and be a part of that success, not be a hindrance to it? And Josh and Lamar and Joe have been hindrances to their success, be it just throwing it and not having a well-balanced attack, because we know a well-balanced offense is a more successful offense. You run up against defenses that are great against the pass. So what are you going to do? If they're great against the pass, you need to have a running game and use that to beat that team. But you don't. So if you're not well-rounded, you're not a great quarterback. And you're not a great team. Excuse me. You're not a great team. Not that you're not a great quarterback, but you're not a great team. And you're not helping yourself any by taking a huge contract that siphons away from your ability to pick up the pieces that you need. Right? I get it. It's all about me. I got to have my money. My money. Well, there's your result. You got to have your money. You don't have any good players around you. Okay? I am so tired of this redraft the league mess, just based on this last point that I just made. Okay? If I'm going to redraft the league, then I'm not taking Jalen Hurts. Why? Because you say that he has the team around him. So you mean to tell me you're redrafting the league, you're taking Patrick, and we're taking Patrick off the table. We're going with Josh, Joe, and Lamar. You're taking one of those three, and you mean to tell me that your next move is to what? Hire high school players to play around him? Or are you going to build a team around him that's a superstar team? Are you going to try to get him a good running back? Are you going to try to get him a good defense? Are you going to try to have the best coordinators on offense and defense? Are you going to try to get him some offensive weapons to throw to? So when you're redrafting the league, don't stop with the quarterback. Right? This is stupid. They always stop with step one. Who's my quarterback? That's irrelevant. You got to put pieces around them to make him successful. Otherwise, they're in the same spot that they're in right now, losing. Joe Burrow. He's got two of the best wide receivers in the league. They say the best. So he's got his offensive weapons only on passing. They don't have a really strong run game. But then the defense is lacking. So don't come at me or Eagles fans with this. If I'm redrafting the league, I'm not taking Jalen. Because if you take Jalen and you build a team around him, you see the result. And if that is a detractor, then that means you're not going to redraft with Josh or Lamar or Joe, and you're not going to build a team around them. And good luck with those results. Good luck with them. Okay? What else here? There was a comparison against Jalen for Dan Marino, right? So they were like, are we going to say that Jalen is better than Dan Marino? And again, these conversations are not put in context. So Dan Marino has had a long career. Hold on one second. I had it up, but it closed. Dan Marino is an amazing quarterback. So this is absolutely no slight on him. This is at the people who try to make these comparisons. Dan Marino had a great career. But in his first 4 years, he started in 83 and ended in 99. Okay? In his first 4 years, because I believe this was he's one of the QBs that hasn't won a Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on. Okay, no, so he hasn't won one. But that was the point, right? They were saying he hasn't won one, but Jalen has, so does that make him better? No, come on. We're not saying that. But he's had a long career. What did I say? 83 to 99? So you have all those years of magic to try to compare against Jalen's 4 years. If Jalen puts up this many years and is successful like he's been, then yes, he could have a career better than Dan Marino because he has one Super Bowl win. So he could. But right now, we're not saying that. But let's also look at this for Dan Marino with his throwing. He threw a lot. 2,000, 5,000, a bunch of 4,000s, a bunch of 3,000 yard years. But guess what? Guess what about his interceptions during those years? 21 interceptions, 23 interceptions, 23 interceptions, 22 interceptions. Okay? If Jalen Hurts is airing it out, but getting 23 interceptions, you know what you're going to say? You're going to say, oh, Jalen, yeah, you threw it a lot, but you had a lot of interceptions. But why won't that same measuring stick be levered against Dan Marino? You see what I'm saying? So this is absolutely not a slight on him, but this is to just show you how pathetic that people are when they try to make these comparisons, but don't put them in context. Because I guarantee you, if Jalen threw 4,000 yards, but had 21 interceptions, you would be like, wow, he did throw a lot of yards, but man, he turned the ball over a lot. And some of those 21 interceptions were the reason why they weren't successful in said game, right? It won't be all the games. It'll be in whatever game that those interceptions may have cost him the game. Yeah, he's a turnover machine. That's going to be the new narrative. Not that he threw for a lot, but that he's a turnover machine. It's crazy. Then they brought up Wiles brought up a good point about the throwing. So the Eagles had a 43% throw, the Ravens had 46, and the Bills had 50, right? So when you look at that, those were at the bottom of the league, but those were the most successful teams. So what are you getting on the Eagles and Hurts for? When your favorite QBs are right there in that same bracket. This is how I'm trying to explain that all of these conversations against Jalen Hurts are just tailor-made to try to hate on the man. Because he's right around these other guys with these stats. They asked Josh, hey, can you stop throwing it so much? Because, yeah, you can air it out, but people are looking for it. You're turning the ball over too much. And he says, okay, you know what? I want my team to be successful. This is a great guy. I want my team to be successful, so let me throw it less. And he's had much better success with the team. Way less turnovers. What did I have? I had another one. Oh, how you look at stats. This is another thing that needs to be put in context, right? People can throw out a stat to you, and if you don't know the context of it, it seems amazing, right? So I can say, man, over 3 years, I had 200% growth. Now, 200% sounds amazing, right? If you had 200% growth, that sounds absolutely great. But what if I told you that I threw 1 completion in my first year, and then I had 3 in my third year? That's 200% growth, but it's only 3 completions. You see what I'm saying? It's not some huge number. It's not something that's that's quality based. But those 2 things are the exact same stat. 200% growth in 3 years, and I threw 3 more catches. Threw 3 catches versus 1 catch. You got to put stuff in context, which is why I've been sitting here ranting for 20 some odd minutes, is because all of these guys never put any of this in context. They want to tell you, oh, he's being carried, and oh, it's the team, and it's a team sport. They want to say, oh, well, Joe Burrow doesn't play defense. Oh, but Patrick doesn't play defense, and oh, but Lamar doesn't play defense. Okay, neither does Jalen Hurts. So if it doesn't help them or hurt them, then it can't help or hurt Jalen, right? You got to be fair across the board. I am so sick of this. I'm so sick of how they treat Jalen. But I am happy that it really seems like he doesn't take it to heart. He says in his interview, hey, I tried to do it the way everybody else said it needed to be done. I lost. So guess what? I'm trying something else. I'm not going to keep spinning my wheels, doing the same thing to lose for 3 or 4 seasons before I let me turn the light switch on. I lost 3 years doing it like this. Let me try something different. No, he was like, I'm trying something different. He did, and he won. And couldn't be happier. I'm still ecstatic. I can't wait for this season to see our success, our failures, whatever comes our way. I can't wait to see it. But Jalen Hurts, without question, right now, with his 4 years as a starter, number two. Number two. Don't give me these guys who've been in the league 7, 8 years. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Don't give me these guys who have a longer resume and you can be like, well, he's had all these years of doing this. No. First 4 years compared to first 4 years. We broke it down for you. Jalen has been more successful than everybody except Mahomes. So, Jalen number two. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. These are just the real deal facts. Okay? I don't want to hear Jaden Daniels, who has 1 year, is better than Jalen Hurts. He's a dynamic player. See, this is something else real quick. You do not have to put another player down to lift another player up. Okay? Jaden Daniels was amazing. He took his team and his franchise from being bottom feeders to being contenders. We now look at them as the number 2 in the NFC East, over Giants, over Dak. Dak's had 10 years. We look at him over that. But that's in a small sample size. That's in a 1 year sample size, okay? He's been able to accomplish a lot. However, all we can then do is compare him to other QBs with 1 year in their first year. Yeah, okay, you might say he was better than any other QB in their first year. But as an overall, we're not going to be silly and be like, oh, yeah, he's better than Jalen Hurts, when Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. And both times that Jaden played in the same game as Jalen, the Eagles won. The Commanders won that second game last year when he was playing against Kenny Pickett. And that was the one where if Devontae had caught the ball, they would have won that game. But Devontae dropped it and we lost. It's a loss. But it wasn't against Jalen. Both times Jalen played, they won. Jaden Daniels is great, but let's hold off on that he's number 5 above Jalen conversation and putting him above all these other people. That's silly. Wait for some more tape. Wait for some more evidence before you start jumping to that outrageous conclusion. All right. I had more stuff down, but I had to call it quits. Do the math for yourself. You have the internet just like I do. You have the film and the win-loss records just like I do to be able to see that all these talking points from these guys are silly. Nick Wright, he even says you could make a case for this. This was so funny. I thought I was done. Nick Wright even says you can have this take. And I've been having this take for the last 2 or 3 years. But he's like, nobody else wants it. I'm right here. I know I'm a nobody and you don't know that I exist. I get that. But I've had the same take. He says that if you want to have the take that Jalen Hurts is better than all these other guys, Lamar and Josh and Joe, because of what he was able to accomplish, about how he was able to beat Patrick when these other guys can't get past Patrick, and how he's been in 2 Super Bowls when Josh hasn't been to any, and Joe hasn't been, Joe's been to 1. Lamar hasn't been to any. And if you want to make this argument, you could make that argument. And that's the argument I've been making. That's the argument I've been making. Is that yes, he's had that success. Yes, he's beat Josh. Yes, he's beat Joe. Yes, he's beat Lamar. Yes, he's beat Patrick. Yes, he's won the Super Bowl. So obviously, yes, that take exists. I'm not saying he's better than Patrick. I'm saying he's better than those other guys. Okay? Fly, Eagles, fly. Go Birds.